Carl Ben Eielson was born in Hatton, North Dakota in 1897, the grandson of Norwegian immigrants. He learned to fly in the U.S. Army Air Force in 1917 and graduated from the University of North Dakota in 1921. George Hubert Wilkins asked the editor of a newspaper in Grand Forks, North Dakota, to recommend an aviator who might be able to fly nonstop from Barrow, Alaska to Spitsbergen, Norway. And the editor, Mr. Stephenson, recommended Carl Eielson. Stephenson had seen Eielson's flying skill and believed he would be the man for the job. In 1927, the Wilkins-Eielson team made a journey on Arctic ice north of the Alaskan coast and ended up about 25 miles northwest of present-day Prudhoe Bay. They had lost an airplane, and one of Eielson's fingers had been lost to frostbite and was amputated. On April 15, 1928, they flew from Barrow, Alaska, in a little orange Vega with 3,000 pounds of cargo, mostly gasoline, and began their flight that the famous Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen has described as beyond the possibility of human endeavor. They flew for 20 hours and 20 minutes, covered over 2,100 miles, until they ran into a severe storm and were forced to land on Dead Man's Island in the Svalbard group. They stayed in their plane for 5 days, and when the weather cleared, flew to Green Harbor. Their success, following closely Charles Lindbergh's flight from New York to Paris, set off a wave of international attention. For his efforts, Carl Eielson was awarded the Harmon Trophy by President Herbert Hoover in Washington, D.C. Later in 1928, Wilkinson asked Eielson to join him again on an expedition to Antarctica. In late 1928 and early 1929, they again flew their same little Lockheed Vega on an exploration flight in the Antarctic. After these 2 successful trips, Eielson started his own air service in Alaska with 12 planes, 3 hangars, and a staff of experienced Alaska pilots and mechanics. He was commissioned a colonel in the National Guard in Grand Forks, North Dakota in April 1929, and the Eielson Air Force Base near Fairbanks, Alaska, is named in his honor. On November 9, 1929, he was killed on a rescue mission when his Hamilton airplane crashed in Siberia. His Alaska Airways, Inc. was conducting a major rescue effort involving 15 passengers and furs from an icebound ship, the Nanook, that was frozen in the ice at North Cape. The plane crashed in a storm about 350 miles northeast of Teller, or about 400 miles northwest of Nome, Alaska. The Alaska Aviation Heritage Museum in Anchorage has a collection of Eielson memorabilia, and the Alaska Aviation Heritage Museum in Fairbanks has the Hamilton monoplane flown by Eielson that was salvaged by the Russians and flown to Fairbanks in a cargo plane in 1991. The book Polar Pilot, the Carl Ben Eielson story, was written by Dorothy Page of Wasilla, Alaska, and published in 1992.